the invisible command that makes money obey you. Before we begin, please do the following: like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because what I'm going to teach you today can become the financial and spiritual key to your life. And you won't want to miss the next content I'm going to release here. Now answer me one thing. What if money wasn't a problem to be solved but a soldier waiting for orders? What if what was missing in your life wasn't money, but spiritual authority about it? It may sound bold, even strange, but that's how it is. Money doesn't need to be pursued. It needs to be commanded. That's how Napoleon Hill built his philosophy of mental wealth, and it is the same principle that Bible already taught for centuries. You will eat the fruit of your words. Proverbs 18:20. What no one tells you is that most people never prosper because they talk to money as if it were their boss. They fear it. They demand it. They put it on a pedestal. But money, my friend, is not a master. It is a servant, and a servant needs direction. Hill said that the mind is the headquarters of wealth, and the Bible reinforces, as he thinks in his soul, so he is. Proverbs 23:7. In other words, he who commands the mind commands the gold. Today, I'm going to show you what almost no one teaches: how to order money to work for you, multiply, and remain, through a sequence of principles that combine the power of the Word, biblical wisdom, and mental discipline. And the best part? Anyone can do it, even if you're starting from scratch. You'll understand why faith without action doesn't generate abundance, why discipline isn't a prison, and why asking is a waste of time when you can order. So stay with me until the end, because in this video I will guide you step by step to activate your spiritual financial command. And if you apply what I'm going to teach you here, you'll realize something powerful. Money will no longer scare you. It will obey you. The turning point. From asking to commanding money. You need to understand one thing once and for all. Money is not your enemy, much less your master. It is a servant, disciplined, obedient, and ready to follow orders. The problem is that your entire life you've been taught to beg it, and those who beg surrender power. Starting today, you will learn to give orders. That's right, orders. Because money, like everything that has energy, responds to authority and to clarity. When you change the way you speak, you change the way you live. Words like, "I'm broke," "I can't do it," "I don't have any left" program your brain to keep you right there, stuck in lack. But when you say, "My money works for me," every dollar that goes out comes back multiplied. "I control my cash flow," you turn things around. And it's not magic, it's mental focus. Your brain starts looking for opportunities where before it only saw obstacles. In the morning, before you pick up your phone, I want you to practice this. Stand up, look in the mirror, and say, "I lead my money. I give direction. I set purpose. And my money obeys." It may seem strange at first, but hear me out. Repetition builds conviction. Do this for 7 days straight, without fail. You'll notice your energy shift, your attitude shift, and little by little, your financial reality begins to reorganize. A simple example: one of my students started out with over $20,000 in debt. Every day she woke up and declared, "I control my money and I determine that every bill will be paid now." In less than 3 months, she renegotiated everything, increased her income, and never said, "I'm broke," again. What changed? Her control. Because whoever controls their words controls their destiny. Now, let me tell you something curious. Most people don't have the courage to do this. They prefer to repeat the old scarcity mantras and call it realism. But realism doesn't pay the bills. Leadership does. The turning point happens the moment you take the lead. And this is where everything starts to change. Because in the next step, I'll show you how to direct your money like a faithful army. Direct money like a faithful army. When I tell you to command your money, it's not just a pretty metaphor. It's a spiritual and mental principle that both Napoleon Hillis for Bible confirm. Hill said, "The human mind is the headquarters of success." The Bible teaches, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Proverbs 29:18. In other words, if you don't tell your money where to go, it gets lost on the battlefield of life. Money needs direction, not out of despair. And the one who gives direction is the commander. It's you. What does this mean in practice? It means that every penny that comes into your life needs to be given a mission, a purpose. Instead of letting the money go away, you decide, you, real, go to investment, you to education, you to generosity, and you to my freedom. This is exactly what Hill called organization of resources and what the Bible calls good stewardship. When you organize, the universe understands it can trust you more. And it does. Remember the parable of the talents? A man entrusted resources to 3 servants. 2 multiplied them. The third buried them. And what happened? The multipliers received more. The one who buried them lost even what he had. This is one of the most powerful principles of prosperity. God does not multiply what is still. And Napoleon Hill said the same thing in different words. Wealth is like energy. It flows where there is movement and purpose. Money is exactly that. Energy with a mission. If you want fast results, start with something simple. The method of 5 pots. Separate what you earn into 5 parts. Essentials: goals, freedom, education, and generosity. The amount doesn't matter. It could be 50 reais or 50,000. The important thing is to provide direction. Want an example? If you earn 1,000, send $550 to essentials, $150 to objectives, $150 to freedom, $100 to education, and $50 to generosity. Doesn't seem like much? Because this small act of command is the beginning of true abundance. And that's where everything starts to change. Because when you direct it, money understands that it's serving a greater purpose. It stops being just a thing and becomes target instrument. Napoleon Hill called it energy organized by the mind, and the Bible calls it divine order. So, if you want your money to obey you, treat it like an army. Give it clear orders, daily reviews, and celebrate every victory. Now that you've learned how to direct it, I want to show you something even more profound. How to train your mind to sustain wealth without sabotaging yourself. Training your mind to sustain wealth without sabotaging yourself. The truth is simple, but hard to swallow. Most people don't lose money because the world is unfair, but because their minds aren't ready to sustain it. As I said, Napoleon Hill, wealth does not remain in the hands of those who are afraid. And the Bible confirms this when he teaches, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." Proverbs 23:7. In other words, your wallet is a reflection of your mind. There is no point in wanting to get rich if your thoughts remain poor. Do you want to multiply? Then you need to understand the battlefield where it all begins. Your mind. That's where the old scarcity commands reside. I can't. I don't deserve it. This is too much for me. And if you don't replace these phrases, they will sabotage every opportunity that presents itself. Money may even arrive, but the mind finds a way to scare it away. Want an example? People who earn well end the month in debt. This isn't a lack of income, it's excessive self-sabotage. The first training is the mental surveillance. Hill called it autosuggestion, and the Bible calls it renewal of the mind. It's the daily exercise of filtering what you think and say about prosperity. Want to change your balance? Change your internal dialogue. Instead of saying, "I don't have any money," say, "My money is on the way." Shaturi. Instead of saying, "I don't know what to do," say, "I'm learning to do better." It may seem small, but it's a practice that shapes reality. Just as an athlete repeats a movement until it becomes automatic, a millionaire repeats words of abundance until they become second nature. The second training is the emotional consistency. Hill said that success doesn't come to those who know what they want, but to those who remain steadfast when nothing seems to work. The Bible shows this in the story of Joseph, sold, betrayed, forgotten, but never disconnected from his purpose. And the result? He ended up ruling Egypt. When the mind understands that the process is part of the construction, discouragement loses its power. It's then that you learn that maintaining faith is more profitable than maintaining fear. And the third training is the one of identity. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you believe to be. If you still harbor the idea that money is dangerous, wealth is selfish, or God doesn't want me to prosper, your mind will sabotage every step. Replace it with greater truths. Money is a tool for good. Wealth is an expansion of purpose. God is pleased when I manage well what He entrusts to me. When this identity is solidified, money stops fleeing. It feels safe to stay. And this is precisely where the next level comes in. Align faith, purpose, and results. The tripod that transforms abundance into legacy. Aligning faith, purpose, and results. The tripod of abundance. There's a huge difference between making money and living in prosperity. Many people fill their pockets but empty their hearts. And that's why, to sustain true abundance, you need to align faith, purpose, and results. Three pillars that, together, form what I call the tripod of stability. Napoleon Hill said that faith is the invisible engine of success, and the Bible confirms, without faith it is impossible to please God. Hebrews 11:6. This means that belief is not a spiritual luxury. It is the foundation that underpins all material achievement. Faith is the first foundation because it keeps you going when nothing seems to make sense. It is the fuel that transforms intention into movement. Hill called it emotional energy of belief, and I like to think of it as a force that vibrates even before the result exists. Want an example? When you act as if you're already prosperous, even before you see the money, you're planting the harvest of faith. The Bible calls this calling into being those things that do not exist as though they did. Romans 4:17. And this isn't distant theology. It's the daily practice of those who have decided to trust the process. The second pillar is the purpose making money. Without purpose is like building a castle on sand. One gust of wind and it all crumbles. Purpose is the why behind every number. Hill said that every lasting fortune arises from a definite purpose, and the Bible reinforces in Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Ask yourself, what does money do for me? That's the question that separates those who merely hoard money from those who truly prosper. The third pillar is their salt, because faith and purpose without action are just good intentions. The Bible is clear, faith without works is dead. James 2:26. And Hill added, thought only has power when it is transformed into action. So set tangible goals, track your numbers, and celebrate every step forward, no matter how small. Purpose gives you direction, faith fuels you, but results keep you on track. It's like driving at night. You don't see the whole road, but you see enough to follow. When these three pillars align, the flow of prosperity becomes constant and natural. Faith connects you with the invisible, purpose gives meaning to the visible, and results prove you're on the right path. It's at this point that you understand that money is a consequence, not a goal. And it's precisely when it stops being a priority that it begins to flow more easily. Hill said, money is shy. It runs away from those who pursue it and approaches those who attract it. And the Bible had already taught this before. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33. But there is a next level, one that few reach, understanding the power of words and emotion about money. Because it's not enough to have faith, purpose, and action. You need to learn to speak to life as if you were speaking to an army, with authority and emotion aligned. And that's what I'll guide you through in the next step. The power of words and emotions. The command that shapes money. Few people understand that the mouth is the steering wheel of their own lives. And that's why so many people go around in circles. Napoleon Hill said that the word is the instrument that transforms thought into reality. And the Bible confirms, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. What you speak, you authorize. What you declare, you create. Every sentence that comes out of your mouth is an order issued to the universe, and the universe, like money, obeys the vibration of authority. That's why what you say about money matters so much. If your words are filled with fear and scarcity, that's exactly what you attract. When you say, "Everything is difficult," your brain understands, "Stop trying." When you say, "I never have any luck," your spirit responds, "So be it." Now when you declare with faith, "My money multiplies, abundance follows me. I am a channel of prosperity," you change the frequency of your life. It's what Hill called creative autosuggestion, and what the Bible describes as call into existence that which does not yet exist. But it's not enough to just talk. It's necessary to feel what you say. Emotion is the fuel that gives life to the word. Hill explained that a cold thought has no power to create wealth, and the Bible shows the same principle when it says, "Whatever you ask, believe that you have received it." Mark 11:24. Faith is emotion in motion. So when you declare your affirmations, speak with intensity, mean what you say, and imagine it happening now. The universe responds not to those who speak out of habit, but to those who feel out of conviction. Want a practical exercise? Every morning, choose a power phrase. It could be, "Money works for me," or "My work is a channel of blessing." Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say it out loud with emotion. Do this for 21 days without fail. Write the phrase on a piece of paper and place it where you can see it. On the fridge, on the mirror, on your phone screen. It's simple, but it transforms. Because it's not just about what you say, it's about what you do. Believe while speaking. This is what reprograms the subconscious and opens the doors to prosperity. When you understand this power, you realize that the miracle isn't out there. It's in the words that come out of your mouth and the emotion that accompanies them. That's why Jesus said, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move,' and it will move." Matthew 17:20. And Hill echoed the same idea. Whatever the human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Words are the orders. Emotion is the command. The outcome is inevitable. Now that you've learned to speak with power, it's time to learn how to act with purpose, transforming every financial decision into a spiritual act of conscious creation. Acting with purpose. Transforming financial decisions into spiritual acts. True prosperity is not only manifested in what you think or say, but mainly in what you do. Napoleon Hill said that faith only has value when it translates into action, and the Bible teaches the same in James 2:17. Faith without works is dead. In other words, it's not enough to declare abundance. You must act as if you already are abundant. Financial decisions, no matter how small, are spiritual seeds. Every conscious expenditure, every investment made with purpose, is an act of faith in motion. Think of it this way. Every time you pay a bill with gratitude, instead of fear, you are saying to the universe, "I trust the flow of abundance." When you invest in knowledge, you are affirming, "I believe in my growth." This is applied spirituality. Hill called it action aligned with belief, and the Bible calls it walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Money is a mirror. It shows on your statement what you really believe about yourself. Want a practical example? Make what I call purposeful decisions. Before any purchase, ask yourself, does this feed my purpose or my need? If it feeds my purpose, go ahead with courage. If it feeds my need, wait. This simple filter changes the course of your financial life. Hill said that rich people make decisions quickly and change them slowly because they are guided by purpose, not emotion. The Bible reinforces the same principle in Proverbs 21:5. Well-laid plans lead to abundance, but those who are hasty always end in poverty. Another essential point is to transform generosity in constant practice. Generosity is the most powerful exercise for strengthening faith in the flow of prosperity. When you give, you're not losing. You're activating the feedback loop. Hill said that the grateful and generous mind vibrates in harmony with universal abundance, and the Bible teaches in Luke 6:38, "Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." It is impossible to keep your heart closed and expect the sky to remain open. When every financial decision becomes a spiritual declaration, money ceases to be a burden and becomes a tool. You no longer buy on impulse, you invest purposefully. You don't spend to fill a void, but to expand your destiny. It's the perfect balance between faith and action, between heaven and earth, between mind and matter. And in the next step, I'll show you how to maintain this constant flow, creating a practical system that ensures discipline, direction, and financial freedom. Creating a system, discipline, direction, and financial freedom. Abundance is not a stroke of luck. It is a consequence of purposeful organization. Napoleon Hill said that discipline is the inevitable price of freedom, and the Bible confirms this when he teaches, "Everything must be done with decency and order." Corinthians 14:40. Many people want to prosper, but they avoid structure, and that's exactly why wealth never lasts. A mind without routine is like a house without doors. Everything goes in, everything goes out. Want financial freedom? Then create it. A system that works even when motivation fails. This system doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it should be simple enough for you to apply every day, even without thinking. Hill taught that winners are those who build habits around their goals, and the Bible calls it faithfulness in the little to rule over the much. Luke 16:10. So start with the basics. Write down your income and your expenses. Set a spending limit and a spending floor. This is practical command. It's you telling money, "I respect you, but I don't serve you." The key is consistency. Hill said that failure is simply the inability to persist, and the Bible reinforces in Galatians 6:9. "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for at the proper time we will reap." This is the logic of spiritual discipline. Do it even when you don't feel like it. Set aside 15 minutes a day to manage your money. Review it, plan it, give thanks. 15 minutes. Less than an episode of a TV series. But that's what separates the dreamer from the doer. Want a practical example? Build what I call a 3R routine. Registrar, review, and reset. Registrar, write down everything that comes in and goes out, even the coffee. Review, look at where the money is going and see if it is aligned with the purpose. Reset, correct the course without guilt, because discipline is not prison, it is planned freedom. Hill would call this smart control, and the Bible would call it good administration. It's the same principle under different names. Both speak of self-control, which is a fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22. Over time, this system creates something precious. Peace of mind. You sleep soundly because you know where you're standing. Money stops being an enigma and becomes a collaborator. And that's when true freedom appears. When you realize you no longer need to chase money, because money has already learned to chase you. In the next step, I'll teach you how to shield your mind and emotions so you never lose this flow of prosperity again. Shielding the mind and emotions. The shield of prosperity. The real battle for wealth doesn't happen in the bank, it happens in the mind. Napoleon Hill said that, "The human mind is the only territory that no one can conquer except yourself." And the Bible confirms, "Guard your heart, for out of it flow the issues of life." Proverbs 4:23. In other words, if you don't protect your thoughts and emotions, fear, doubt, and guilt will steal what faith has built. Shielding your mind is building an invisible shield that keeps you standing firm, even when everything around you seems to be crumbling. Have you ever noticed that financial fear is more contagious than a virus? All it takes is one piece of bad news, and millions panic. Hill called it crowd psychology, and the Bible depicts the same scene when Peter, upon seeing the wind, began to sink. Matthew 14:30. While looking at Jesus, he walked on water. When he looked at fear, he sank. It's the same with money. Focus determines destiny. Therefore, those who want to prosper need to learn to protect their eyes and ears, because everything that goes in shapes what goes out. The first step towards this shielding is choose your fonts feed on wisdom, not tragedy. Replace chaotic news with uplifting reading. Hill recommended starting the day with 30 minutes of positive study, and the Bible teaches us to meditate on the word day and night. Joshua 1:8. Want a practical example? Swap the first hour of the morning, the one you usually spend scrolling through your feed, for reading and prayer. Make this your ritual of power. It's simple, free, and transforms your mind's frequency. The second step is monitor emotions. Money is neutral, but your emotions are not. When you feel guilty about prospering, you block the flow. When you fear losing, you paralyze action. Hill said that, "The dominant emotion defines the outcome, and the Bible confirms, 'What a man fears, that comes upon him.'" Job 3:25. So instead of fearing loss, begin to be thankful for what you have. Instead of doubting, declare, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Psalm 23:1. Gratitude is spiritual armor. Finally, the third step is create an environment that protects you from emotional scarcity. Stay away from pessimistic conversations, toxic people, and environments that drag you down. Hill said that, "The mind becomes a reflection of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and the Bible advises, 'Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.'" Romans 12:2. Create an ecosystem of faith, purpose, and learning around you. When your mind and emotions are aligned, no crisis can stop you. And that's precisely when you prepare for the next step. Make money work for you, while you live in peace. Making money work for you. The principle of intelligent multiplication. There comes a time when you need to stop working just for money and start making money work for you. This is the turning point that separates the survivor from the legacy builder. Napoleon Hill said that, "Money is a faithful worker when well commanded, but becomes a tyrant when left without direction." And to Bible. He already taught this same principle in the parable of the talents, Matthew 25. The master who rewarded the servants who multiplied and took the resource from the one who buried it. The message is clear: God blesses movement, not stagnation. To make money work for you, you need 3 things: vision, planning, and patience. Hill called this organized thinking applied to defined purpose, and the Bible translates it like this: "The lazy man will not roast his game, but a man's precious possession is diligence." Proverbs 12:27. In other words, stop burying what God has given you. Invest, even if it's small, but invest purposefully. Start by learning the basics: fixed income, real estate funds, small businesses. The secret isn't in the amount, but in the habit of multiplying. A simple example: Take 10% of everything you earn and set it aside for investment. Don't touch, spend, or trade this amount. Treat it as sacred, because it's your future working while you sleep. Hill said that true financial freedom begins when money makes money, and the Bible confirms, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." Ecclesiastes 11:1. The return may take time, but it will come, because the universe rewards those who plant consistently. Another important point is to understand that multiplying is not accumulating. Hoarding comes from fear. Multiplying comes from faith. Hoarding is holding back the flow. Multiplying is trusting in the expansion. The Bible teaches that he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully, 2 Corinthians 9-6. And Hill reinforced that greed is the twin sister of poverty. Instead of hoarding out of fear, invest wisely. Every idle dollar is a stifled seed. Every dollar in circulation is a living seed, ready to bear fruit. And never forget, the ultimate goal is not just to have more, but be more. More useful, wiser, more generous. Money that works for you must work with purpose. It needs to serve something greater than comfort. Hill said that wealth is a spiritual responsibility, and the Bible states, "To whom much is given, much will be required." Luke 12:48. When you understand this, multiplication stops being a number and becomes a calling. And that's where the next level comes in. Transform wealth into legacy. The final stage of conscious prosperity. Turning wealth into legacy. The cycle of abundance that never ends. There comes a point in the journey where hoarding no longer makes sense, and the true purpose of prosperity reveals itself. Become a channel of transformation. Napoleon Hill said that the highest use of wealth is the creation of more wealth, not just material, but human and spiritual. And the Bible confirms this principle in Genesis 12:2. "I will bless you, and you will be a blessing." The cycle of abundance is only complete when what flows to you begins to flow through you. It is at this point that money ceases to be just a resource and becomes a legacy. Legacy isn't what you leave to people. It's what you leave within them. It's the seed that continues to germinate when you're no longer here. Hill said that immortality is achieved through impact. The Bible calls this fruit that remains, John 15:16. So ask yourself, what is my prosperity multiplying in the world? You were called to be a river, not a reservoir. A river flows, nourishes, and therefore never dries up. A reservoir holds back and therefore rots. Want a practical example? Use part of your income to support something that reflects your purpose. It could be helping a social cause, funding education, or investing in projects that transform lives. Hill called this wealth with purpose, and the Bible reinforces, "There is greater joy in giving than in receiving." Acts 20:35. Generosity is the antidote to greed, and the invisible link between you and the divine flow of abundance. The more you give, the more space you create to receive. But there is an even deeper kind of legacy. The legacy of wisdom. Teach what you've learned. Share the method, the principles, the mistakes, and the victories. Hill transformed millions of lives not by what he possessed, but by what he shared. The Bible shows the same with Solomon, the wisest and most prosperous man in history, whose true inheritance was Proverbs, not palaces. When you multiply knowledge, you extend your time, because your voice continues to echo in every life you touch. And when you reach this level of consciousness, you understand that wealth was never about having, but about being an instrument of divine creation. To prosper is to cooperate with God in the plan of life's expansion. Hill said that wealth is the result of harmony between mind, purpose, and service. And the Bible seals this truth in Deuteronomy 8:18. "It is God who gives you the power to acquire wealth in order to confirm His covenant." Abundance is an alliance. It grows when shared. And that's why In the next and final step, I want to show you how to transform this legacy into a lifestyle, so that thriving becomes as natural as breathing. The decision that changes the flow of your life. Now that you understand how money responds to your mind, your words, and your faith, tell me, will you keep asking, or will you start asking, order? Because, as he taught, Napoleon Hill, success belongs to those who decide, and to Bible confirms, decide therefore what you will, and it shall be done. Job 22:28. Prosperity is not a stroke of luck. It is a decision of action. It is when you hold your head high, speak with authority, and act with purpose. Think about it. How much time in your life have you wasted asking for permission to prosper, begging for money to stay, afraid of running out? What if, instead of begging for abundance, you behaved like our hares? The difference lies in a choice: to believe that the Creator did not make you to survive, but to rule. Hill said that, you become what you think about all day. And the Bible states, a good man leaves an inheritance even to his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. To prosper is to honor that inheritance. Now it's your turn. Apply what you've learned here. Speak like someone with authority, act like someone with purpose, and discipline yourself like someone who has already won. Use the power words I've shared. Create your prosperity jars, practice generosity, and keep your faith active. And when the results start to appear, because they will, remember, it's not a coincidence, it's a consequence. And before I leave, I want to leave you with a challenge. Right here in the comments, I command to seal this new cycle in your life. This is your public declaration that from today onwards you take charge. And if this content inspired you, like the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because I still have a lot to teach you about how to align mind, faith, and money, and transform prosperity into a lifestyle. After all, as I was saying, Napoleon Hill and confirms to Bible, everything is possible for those who believe. Mark 9:23. But only those who decide to act will win. So go ahead and start ordering.